Jared Grifoni. He's been seated additional time from Elsa Martinez and from Jared Jones. And Mr. Grifoni will be followed by Becky Newell.
Thank you, Commissioners. Hopefully I don't take the full 9 minutes, but I know last time I think I broke the court reporter because I spoke too fast. So I want to take a few extra seconds today to catch my breath. I am a resident of Marco Island, which is Commissioner Fiala's district. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to, number one, putting this on the agenda and allowing us to speak about it today. There are many issues with Common Core, legal issues, educational issues. It's a major discussion point now with kitchen tables and on Capitol Hill. And you've seen the resolution. It was read into the record last time, and Commissioner Henning added it to the agenda today. There's some potential legal concerns there. There's some educational concerns, standard concerns, enumerated powers in the federal Constitution, the Florida Constitution, as well as powers of our local school board. Article 9, Section 1 of our Florida Constitution requires a uniform, efficient, safe, secure, and high-quality system of public schools. And Article 9.4b, it also says that the school boards, the local school boards, shall operate, control, and manage those schools, supervise those schools. One of the most harmful aspects of Common Core is the high-stakes testing that go along with it. Teachers are forced to spend a huge chunk of their teaching time teaching to the test rather than teaching subjects and instilling a love of learning. Something like 90 out of 180 days, 50% of the time in a lot of districts, I think even Lee County is one of them, rather than focusing on what really matters. In some districts, tests are actually given every single day to at least some students, in addition to AP placement tests, SAT, and ACT tests. The state ordered all students, including those in elementary schools, to take these tests on computers. That's great, right? But no one ever thought that these schools don't have a computer for every single student. So what happens? Ultimately what happens is one student takes a test, or a group of students takes a test. The other students twiddle their thumb or sit in the library or sit in the gym or do something, wasting more time preparing for tests rather than learning. The results now for these tests determine 50% of a teacher's pay raise, whether students can graduate, and how schools are graded. In Palm Beach County, one student had symptoms of PTSD from the stress created by these high-stakes tests. Some kids were put on Xanax. Nobody wants that. Teachers don't want it. Students don't want it. Parents don't want it. In September, the Greater Florida Consortium of School Boards, they represent 11 school boards, coastal school boards, 42% of the students in the state of Florida. They voted unanimously and called for a suspension of these high-stakes tests. So why can't kids at least just opt out, right? I mean, if the parents want the kids to opt out, if the kids, if it's too stressful, well, they could opt out and maybe they can do something else, right? No. Our educational commissioner, Pam Stewart, just yesterday wrote a letter to all the senators in the state of Florida, said that there's no legal way for them to opt out. Teachers can, and if a teacher encourages an opt-out, they can face employment sanctions. If districts encourage opt-out, they can face loss of funding. And if students opt out themselves, they can be held back, they can be retained. This is state-sponsored bullying. There's no other way to put it. This is force, this is coercion, this is bullying, and for some of these kids, it's probably terrorism. Now, when these issues they may be broad and far-reaching, but what we're asking you to do today by supporting this resolution is to make your position known and to call upon the proper boards, the legislature, and the governor to take action, to do what they must within their powers to restore common sense to our educational system. The board speaks for residents, families, students throughout Collier County. And if you can't do that today, then you've done a great disservice to the principles and ideals of limited government from the days of our founding fathers through today. Now, this resolution, it's not going to, certainly not the end of the road, but it's the legitimate, reasonable, and effective first step that must be taken in order to assert the importance of local control in our education. I believe that this resolution was designed to offer as much clarity as possible on a somewhat difficult and complicated issue. It's simply a request by the BCC to call upon the school board, the governor, the legislature, to do something, to take a look at this, to reevaluate. A request that the school board do the same thing. And a request that the legislator and governor return to the principles within our Florida Constitution for local control. Common Core won't end today. regardless of this vote. Teachers are still going to teach, students are still going to go to school, and they're still going to be forced to take those tests. This continues the conversation. It allows that opportunity for ideas to be exchanged. It asks our elected officials, parents, teachers, etc., to evaluate and consider better options. It's common sense. It expands the dialogue. And that's the opposite of what Common Core does. Common Core is force, it's coercion, it's retaliation, and it's retribution. And it stops people from pursuing what they believe. But what you can do here, you can put our schools, our school board, our legislature, our governor on notice. This is your position, that something needs to be done. Now, in order to restore home rule to school matters, we have to get rid of the roadblocks. The roadblocks are Common Core. The roadblocks are high-stakes testing. And I think we're presenting today, and what you have in front of you today, is exactly what you might want. And it's a way to bring home rule and education back by removing the obstacles preventing it. And I think you should show a united front on that. You're not changing the law. You're not overriding the governor. You're not overriding the federal government. You're supporting local grassroots constituents, voters, who are doing all they can to move this up the chain in the proper way, to take it one step at a time, to start at the grassroots level and work our way to the top. Because ultimately, this needs to be addressed at the top. The school board will be reviewing their legislative platform on February 10th in light of the resolution that we brought in front of them at their last meeting. There's no one-size-fits-all solution to a one-size-fits-all curriculum. We need all avenues open. So we ask that you don't close one of those avenues today. I don't know all your personal histories. I would imagine that most, if not all of you, either have children in the school system, have grandchildren in the school system, have relatives with children in the school system, have nieces, nephews, friends who have children in the school system. I know children in the school system. They are forced to deal with this every single day of their life. Every single day, their minds are being restricted. Their ability to think for themselves, to pursue what they believe in, their interests, they're kept in a box. We need to open up that box. We need to allow them to think outside the box. And the fear expressed by some over this issue, it's unfounded. Florida statutes, as Mr. Cofield mentioned, deals with the teaching of the Declaration of Independence, inalienable rights, self-evident truth, equality of all people, minority issues, civil rights movement, the history and contribution of African Americans, women, and other minorities to the United States. Nothing being asked of this board would change that. And I think those are the unifying principles that really bring us all together. Rather than getting stuck in this cycle of corporatism where students are encouraged to fail, even if it's not conscious, it's subconscious, that these tests are designed to make them have to retake the tests and put more money in the pockets of some of these big corporations, frankly, who are lobbying our elected officials at higher levels. It's corporatism. It's a high-stakes testing model funneling millions of dollars from big government to the states to big corporations and back again. So those arguing in favor of the status quo, it's an argument in favor of mediocrity, stagnation, social engineering, which is appalling regardless of which side of the aisle you may be on if you're trying to do that to our children. Surveillance, moneyed interest, and political opportunism. No one here wants censorship of books, thoughts, or ideas. No one wants political or social engineering in school. And those criticisms ring hollow when you just take a moment to think that getting rid of this box, these restrictions, opens up the flow of information. It opens up ideas. And I think we all want children to be free to learn without their arms tied behind their back, and teachers free to teach without being restricted by big government. Please support this resolution today.
Thank you, Mr. Grifoni.
Mr. Chairman, your final